All right, good morning, everybody. It is Friday, February 2nd, 2024. Let's go ahead and jump back to yesterday. Now, yesterday, if you were in the pre-market, remember what I said. I didn't really have the most convincing clues for a bounce, given the fact that the market had sold off. We had a lot of bearish signals from the higher time frames. So let's go back here to the open. So the expectation, or at least one of the initial biases we had coming into the open, was for the market to try to come back down and retest the low of the day before. Now, what the market was going to do when we got to the low of the day before, that was anyone's guess. We could have had a double bottom, could have had a peak below and bounce, or we could have had continuation to lower levels. And again, that was what I expected, given the fact that I didn't have a lot of convincing bullish signals from yesterday's low or the previous day's low. But that's the exact opposite ended up happening, right? So the day before yesterday, we basically nailed the sell-off. And then yesterday, we didn't quite anticipate the bounce, but that's what happens, right? Some days we get really nice follow through. And I think the big question that we had yesterday was, after that pretty tumultuous sell-off that we were coming out of, how far were the bulls going to allow the market to get before they jumped back in and popped higher? And I guess the answer was the low of not yesterday, but the day before. So they were never able to bring it back down to retest the low of the day before yesterday, which is what we were expecting to happen. And let's take a look. It was a pretty choppy situation throughout the morning. We did hold the Hopel. We did hold up off VWAP here just a couple minutes after the open, about half hour after. But it was really choppy. So there was nothing significant to talk about here for the first 2 hours of the open. We did get one of those typical peak below and bounces from this level, from one of our roadmap levels, our support and resistances, where we ducked into it. We got a slightly lower low, and then you can see we parried right off of it to go ahead and begin that bullish rally that ended the day. So really, I think the most important thing to note about yesterday was the bears tried to bring the market lower, right? It was super choppy out of the open. They tried to hold above VWAP, hold it back below VWAP, hold it above VWAP, and then they've got it back below VWAP, but then could not get through this roadmap level at 78, got this peak below and bounce, and then this began, again, the rally. So all morning, pretty choppy. Again, nothing to really boast about inside of here. You probably could have grabbed the pullback to VWAP or the pullback to the 200 here just after the market opened for a little bit of a scalp, but again, didn't quite get anywhere. You would have got 5, 6, 7 points, maybe 10 points out of it if you bought VWAP there, but then it didn't go anywhere and it was back and forth. So let's look at what happened once the market really started to show its face, which was the break back above 50%. So this was the dividing line that I told you. If the bulls were against our expectations, if they were going to go ahead and show a push through 50% of the previous day and 50% of the previous week, that was our clue that maybe the bearish bias that we had coming into the open was going to be over with. So you can see we got our peak below and bounce through this level, came back to hold it, popped, and then we started to get back through VWAP, got back through the scaffolding, and then here, right here, here's our check mark. We got through 50% of the previous week and previous day, and that was really the point at which I would have said, okay, so much for the bearish bias. They attempted to bring the market lower, and it didn't quite go anywhere. And then from there, we held 50% for 3 tests. So if you were still a little bit unsure as to what you wanted to do, because it was a little bit of a battle over here, by the 3rd time they tested the 50% level and started to rally back up and you got your crossover, it should have been pretty clear that, hey, they tried to bring it lower on 3 attempts here, getting very close to the end of the day. And right in that last 2 or 3 hours of the market, you got this beautiful bullish rally up to test basically the high from the day before or 2 days before. So again, really choppy situation coming out of the open here. But then once the market got through 50% and we got 3 holds above it, it should have been clear again in the afternoon that the bulls obviously were back in power, and it was time to look for longs targeting up into some of the levels above. Now, if we go up to the higher time frame so we can see the perspective from up here, we came back up yesterday. So let me just bring this up. This was the failure point where we were anticipating a potential sell-off coming into, I think, Wednesday of this week. We got the sell-off. I expected the market yesterday, which is down over here, to come back and test the lows, but it never did. There's our breakout back up, and it was through 50% of the previous day at the time, which was right there. We were just looking at, and we came all the way up back to the very scene of the crime, or the major zone of resistance that has been on the chart for a while, and from the same area we failed from on Tuesday. So we came back up, just breached on through, still inside of the pocket, right? Remember, 63 was the top end of the pocket that we expected to be major resistance for the bulls. And it's almost, again, kind of interesting how we had a number of zones in the past. So this zone here we came up into once, twice, 3 times, and then finally broke out. And then the second zone we came up into once, twice, maybe you could argue 3rd time there, and a 4th time. And then we broke out, and now here we are up to our next major bearish or bullish contention zone, really. And we tested it in the pre-market, tested it in the overnight, tested it during the day, failed, and now here we are yesterday coming up right back into it, having trouble right at the close there through the Sunday, or through the Globex, not Sunday. And then we tested it here just about in the last hour, and we're getting a major pullback. So we're still having a lot of trouble right in the very area that we have been aware of for multiple weeks now, and looking to be a little bit funky in here because we're getting stuck inside of this little area right now. So testing that same zone up top there. Let's go ahead and look at some of the detail here. In the rally yesterday, back up to that zone we just looked at, which was again up around 55 to 63 up in here. Beautiful kind of stair step type of situation. Again, you typically see this on either side. So when it's in a bullish market, we'll see price literally stair step up the roadmap levels to the upside. And when we're in a bearish market, we'll see the vice versa, the opposite of that, where we'll stair step down the roadmap level. So yesterday, basically the same situation. It was choppy in the beginning, but then we stair stepped up 78, up the Hopel, up to the scaffolding. Again, just seeing this nice pullback, break through, pull back and held 50% of the previous day, got through the scaffolding to the upside, pull back, held that nearly to the tick, and then we got up through this next scaffolding, which notice towards the end of the day there, we came right to the next discrete area. It's literally each level. We come into it, we get a pullback, we break through, we come to the next one, we pull back, we eventually break through, we come to the next one. It's just literally a game of ping pong back and forth between our roadmap levels, again, nearly every single day. So this is just another beautiful example. We even pulled back and held 50% of the, oh no, that was not on that day. Coming up into the scaffolding, pulling back, I had that 50% of the previous day from today. Parried all the way up, and then we got right to, again, this pocket here from the high of the day before, and our next roadmap level at 40.5, and then came all the way up. And again, this was that little zone, if we look on the higher time frames, from about 55 to 63 in here, and that was the wrong drawing there. Somewhere right in there, and we failed, right? So this is what we're seeing here coming close to the open now. We failed right off the high of yesterday in the overnight session, came down, parried off the 200, and now here we are finding support right off the scaffolding level down below. So that's where we are. That's where we find ourselves coming into the open this morning. That was fairly long review of what happened yesterday, given the fact that it was pretty choppy, and then one directional move. But let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames and take